that's what I really focus on in my coaching, like creating and strengthening that relationship with the kid or teen and with the parents, so that they have that relationship and discussion going on all the time. So that's the way that a teen will go to the parent that, hey, I saw this thing online and it made me feel uncomfortable. Like, can we talk about it or something? Or what is this?
Yeah. Or I'm really into this and you're a little shocked
Yeah.
what you're into. Like, and then just be like, okay, what is this exactly? Don't. I have a daughter who got into expressing herself in artwork with dark artwork. It was dark in its expression, but it's an outlet for her. It totally freaked her dad out. But I went, you're finding an outlet, and maybe this is an outlet for things. And I'm glad you're finding an outlet. So instead of being apprehensive about it, I'm like, I was trying to understand why. I was trying to see like this, and then it's because I encouraged it, it's actually developed into this beautiful art form in her own style that she has, because I wasn't abrasive or shocked about, oh, that is not okay, that's not okay, this means this. I didn't put any meaning on it. I let her tell me what the meaning was.
Yeah. So really you were staying really open and authentic and in the present and listening again.
And over again with the teenager especially, I'm finding that's the best thing. And even sometimes just being in the room and quiet and just letting them know I'm there, whether they talk to me or not, I was there. And so I think those are some other things to keep in mind when a child's exploring anything and something that's unfamiliar to you. Just don't judge it. Don't label it. Wait. Let them tell you what it means to them.
Absolutely.
Hi, it's Tiffany Lorraine Galloway here with my co-host Catherine Tyson Sewell, and we are continuing the theme of resilient identity this month. So thank you for being here as we explore this subject from another perspective.
Yes. Hi there. And thank you, ladies, for tuning in, coming back week after week and being a part of this amazing community where we bring great stories from amazing women that are doing great things out there. And we're just so happy that, we're touching so many lives, and together we're stronger. So tonight, no different than any other episode, we have an amazing woman, Maarit Grönroos. But go ahead and tell me if I was right or wrong, Ms. Maarit.
Yeah, it was quite good. Hey, happy to be here, and thank you for having me. So I'm Maarit Grönroos.
Welcome.
And I'm an LGBTQIA+ specialist coach, and I work especially with parents who want to support their LGBTQIA+ children and teens. So parents who have gender curious, gender questioning, gender expanding, or non-binary or gay or bi kids.
Thank you for that clarity. I didn't realize until I had a child explore this that there were so many different variations of it. And it was important that whatever they were going from back and forth as they were figuring this out, that I understood what that meant. Could you maybe spend a little time just exploring each one for maybe someone that didn't realize there were so many variations?
Yeah, so there are really so many variations, and they keep expanding and expanding. So L is for lesbian, G is for gay, B is for bi, T is for transgender or trans, Q is for questioning, I is for intersex, and A is for asexual. And then we have the plus, because it keeps expanding. And maybe we don't want to put all the alphabets there, but just use the plus there.
What got you into doing this work?
Well, I have been doing clinical work back in Finland, where I'm originally from. So I'm a psychologist and a psychotherapist there, and I've been working with both teens and adults, mostly in gender or sexual minorities. So it felt like a really natural progression for me when I moved to the US, that I really want to continue working with like this kind of like rainbow themes and pride themes.
Where is your heart when it comes to helping the relationship with a parent-child through this identity? Not necessarily crisis, some people would call it that. I don't think that's appropriate, but the exploration, as you said, as they figure out who they are and they explore their sexuality. What are the key points to be supportive for your child and to show up for them in the best way that's loving? Because we hear some extremes of like disowning the child or different things, even if they haven't quite settled on it yet, or they've been in the closet and they're coming out. Like there's definitely not good ways of dealing with this, and there's better ways of dealing with it. Could you speak to that a little bit?
So in the present moment, when usually a child is telling the parents something about themselves, it's usually very like delicate. like it takes a lot of courage to sort of like come out, or better yet, like invite someone into your world when you're telling them more about yourself, a really personal thing. So I really like to keep in mind that we have like 2 ears and 1 mouth. And maybe there's a purpose for that. So it's better if we can like listen to the kids talking and then kind of like swallow it. Okay, I have my emotions, but I can take care of them later. I have my questions, I can take care of them later. And just really in that particular moment, just to be really present and authentically there for the kid and listen. Because there's going to be a lot of other moments when you come back to that theme. So you really don't need to ask all the questions in that particular moment. There's no need, no rush.
Yeah. And the fact that they had the courage to tell you says a lot about
I think that's across the board too. I mean, just as a parent, because we talk about that. I think we talked about that before, Tiffany, where, you know, when your children are sharing things with you. I used to have my niece with me, and I was raising her, and she was about 7 years she was with me. And I remember her when she came to live with me, she was 5. And when she left, she was 12. So it was, you know, a 7-year period. And I remember like she was so shy and she wouldn't tell me anything, you know, she wouldn't say anything. She was very secretive, you know, like, I don't know what her past was. You know what I mean? It was my half brother, and we hadn't grown up together and stuff. So I really wasn't familiar with a lot of stuff. And I remember she'd be talking away, and as long as I was not looking at her, she would continue to tell me everything. And as soon as I turned and looked at her, she'd say, and so I learned that, yes, 2 ears, 1 mouth, because as long as you're listening, they're talking. When you start to talk, they stop. And especially in situations like this, what you're talking about, Maarit, right, is that, you know, these are things that they want to share with someone, but they don't feel comfortable. They're trying to find themselves anyway. So when you start, you know, putting your thoughts into their mind, or in feeling like they're feeling like you're imposing something on them, because a lot of times, because of us as parents, we might be afraid. Like I remember when one of my sons, you know, he had a lot of guy friends all the time. And I think to myself, you know, I would want him to feel comfortable. If, you know what I mean, if he was gay, I would want him to feel comfortable because he's my child. He's my child, right? And so I would, you know, it would be that fear in me, like, all right, why are you afraid of this, right? And a friend of mine has, she found out that her son was gay when he was a teenager, and her son went through a whole lot of stuff. So it's it's one of those things for parents, right? But to kind of take yourself out of the equation, and to and to let it be about them. And I think that that's tough as a parent overall. But it's so,
of course
super
it is.
important. Yeah.
And it's one of the key things to remember, that don't put the burden of like uncertainty and all the questions on your child, because they definitely have their own questions going on, especially when exploring gender and sexuality and like puberty, like alone puberty, that's a lot.
Yeah.
What
exactly.
age do you find this is coming out more and more? I'm just curious, because it seems like younger and younger kids are being exposed to stuff or learning about stuff I didn't find out about till I was like 16 or even 14, but now like 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, like know things I didn't know anything about. So I'm kind of curious where some of what is the age range you end up working with?
Yeah, so it does vary a lot. And it's like a really like general part of childhood, and because children can play, and children don't have prejudice, so children play all kinds of role plays. But for some children, it gives like really valuable information about their own gender and how to express gender, how to play, how they want to express themselves, and it can be as early as age 3 to 4.
Oh wow!
But what's usually like more common is like when puberty hits. So we all know that then our body starts to change. Right. So there are definite signs that, okay, there's something happening in my body. And if you're not like aligned with the gender that you were assigned at birth, you will start to notice that, okay, so these changes, these really don't feel good for me. I was expecting maybe something else. And how do I navigate this? How am I okay with this? Maybe I'm totally not okay with this. I need support for this. So that's usually something that people can't escape.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never struggled with that.
So I'm
curious, how do you relate to someone?
I think there's
you can't understand it, because I've been heterosexual my whole life. Like, it just no question. I'm female, I'm attracted to men, or I wouldn't have so many kids. You know, so I wonder what I would do. The child that I have who kind of went through this is older in a way, so I wasn't dealing with them day to day. I didn't get to have in-depth conversations as they were going through this. But I often thought about, what would I say? How would I show? How would I have that conversation about what you're feeling and what that feels like? And how do I have empathy for something that I can't personally understand, but I want to be supportive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But I think you said quite a lot of things that, okay, I maybe don't understand your experience, but I'm curious about it and I'm open to it and I want to hear more about it. And I honor your identity. And thank you for trusting me with all this information about yourself that you have maybe newly discovered. And I know it can be really scary to talk to me, but thank you for trusting me. And I try to be worthy of that trust.
Right. Yeah.
So I really inviting to the conversation.
Yeah, I'd like to ask this question. When you just mentioned from as early as 3 or 4, I think the natural tendency for parents over, your average parents, right? The natural tendency at 3, if you're a little girl, start saying she's a boy, you're saying, no, you're a girl. And if you're a little boy saying he's, you know what I mean? That's a natural tendency. So I appreciated when you talked about puberty. And so there's a lot of controversy in the world right now where, with us just speaking of gender and changing gender, and can they make that decision at 7, at 8, at 9, and just a lot of disagreements that no, that's too young. And so I like when you talk about puberty and how that, because at that point you are clear, you're starting to be attracted to someone, right? And so that's kind of natural that, if you're a girl and you find that you're not attracted to boys, then that's kind of clearing up for you. Maybe, I'm actually attracted to girls, and vice versa. But at 2, 3, 4, at that age, we naturally will just say, no, you're not a boy, you're a girl. And we're dressing her in pink dresses and lots of bows and, giving her dolls to.
But what I'm actually thinking about with younger kids is that what we need to ask.
And the boys are, you know what I mean? So
what we need to ask with younger kids is that are we doing harm? If we are telling them that, no, you are not what you say you are, I feel like we are actually imposing harm to them because I feel like, okay, they have this variety of expression and they can express themselves in different ways. But we don't actually need to know, if we have a child who is 3, that what they're going to be when they're 15 or 25 or 50. We can live in the present if we follow our children. Because children have the fantastic ability to live in the present. They can feel like, I'm a princess today and I can be Spider-Man tomorrow. And they don't care about the week after that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't need to make those kind of big decisions. And we don't need to tell them that, yes, you are this, or no, you are not that. Just follow their lead. That's where I'm at, maybe.
Or my son the other day, he's got sisters and stuff. Yeah. And so he wanted to go to bed with a pink blanket the other night. And I'm like, it's a pink blanket. I didn't make anything of it, but some people do. Yeah. And I remember I have a little brother who had really long eyelashes and just great features. So he looked kind of like a little girl, but he had short hair, and just because of his features or whatnot. And I remember dressing him up as a little girl. I hadn't had a sister yet, and I really wanted one. And so I dolled him all up, and my dad kind of freaked out on me. He's like, don't ever do that again. And I got sisters after that, so I never really did. But what's interesting is that brother now sews outfits, has dyed his hair more than me. He does anime conventions. He expresses himself in a lot of ways. And what
I hear that you are telling is that they trust themselves.
Yes. And
so that's what we can really offer kids and tweens and teens, that if we follow their lead, so they can explore everything. So they don't need to have the pressure that, okay, I really need to stick to this and really like defend myself in this. But they have like more freedom, like to choose every different kind of option. So there's no pressure to sticking with one, because we take the tension away from that.
Yeah. So on the other side, then, Tiffany, it could be that you were imposing something on your brother to be your playmate, be a girl, and your dad was. So they were both extreme. It could be seen as extreme responses, because his response is definitely extreme, like absolutely not, don't you dare. And you're like, you're a girl, here you go.
Right. Yeah. So in both cases, yeah. It's the best example is it? Like, because I feel like maybe that could have been handled differently, honestly. But
I feel that there's resilience, because if we all have like different kind of feedback from the environment, and then we need to figure out, okay, like what's for me, like what actually feels like me, and then we make those decisions, and we get feedback from ourselves, from our body and mind, that okay, this feels good, this feels authentic, or this feels fun, or this feels like fantastic, or somehow funny in a good way. And then we can change it the other day. So I'm really maybe opposed to like finding your true authentic self. Like it's like some kind of like concrete thing for our entire life, but more feeling like, okay, how do I feel like today? And maybe we shouldn't like always stick into like, this is my identity. And it's like super crucial that we have that word, but it's maybe more about like, I don't know, being like more flexible with how do we want to express ourselves. To take the pressure off the matter.
Well, and especially during puberty, so many new things to navigate. You don't know what's going on in their body. I mean, I remember puberty kind of not as much. I almost feel like you have to guide them through it with a gentle hand, but they need the room to make their decisions and not feel judged for it. And also just like, try to stay away from labels of this is what a woman should be, or this is what a man should be, or what this means, because that's why I asked you to define some of them in the beginning. What does that mean? But then what does that mean to my child? And how does that make them feel? I think is what you're alluding to.
Yeah, and it's a really good way to build resilience, that when we get those images from the media, okay, this is what a woman should look like, or a man, or do we even have like an example, like this is what a non-binary person should look like, and then have those conversations like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, what do you think? I'm really curious to hear what you think about that, and how do you feel? Like, how do you want to express your femininity or masculinity or something else?
So can I ask you a question? There's been so much talk about this, especially different genders, or people wanting to change genders. There's been a lot of talk in the last, I'd say probably in the last 5 years. Do you think that there may be kind of an opportunity for a trend, or is that authentic? You know what I mean? Because we've not heard it like this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So I just wonder, because you always want to be sure that it's not something that, suicide trends, for goodness sakes. I mean, like ridiculous things, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I feel that the important question is really to take into consideration, like, what do we mean by the word trend? So is it something that has risen in popularity, like in numbers? And that's like free from like some sort of like values. So it's just more common. So, okay, probably that is happening. But then if we are like, are people choosing this to be trendy or hip or popular or whatever? I don't think that's the case. Like, I feel like every single person, be it a tween or a teen or an adult, knows that if you're part of the gender minority or sexual minority, life is not going to be that easy for you.
Right.
No one is going to choose that just for fun. Like, that's not how it happens.
Yeah, very well said. I agree with that 100%. Because the ones who I know, especially being in theater and stuff, they have to find ways that they are comfortable. And one of the places is theater, where you're allowed to be expressive, you're allowed to be extravagant, you're allowed to explore who you are in in any way that you need to. And the theater's been a safe place for that. I've used that as an outlet myself as I figured myself out, but it makes sense that that's a one safe place. And maybe I don't mean to stereotype here at all, but I've just noticed that when they have a safe space to explore, you can see such beauty in people, that you can love the person. Maybe you don't agree with some values, or maybe you don't agree with some things. As a Christian, I'm more liberal in this thought process than others just because of my experience. But it's an interesting line there of loving the person, but maybe, and I think that's where it's hard for parents too. Like, where is that line of how does this align with my faith and my relationship with God, but also my relationship with my child? And how do you help people navigate that aspect of it?
Yeah. So usually what parents need is like taking time for their own emotions and taking time for their own like concerns. And when there's like adequate time for that, for their own process, because actually like their identity as a parent is changing, because they thought they were a parent of like a cis heterosexual kid, and then they figured out like, okay, maybe I'm not. And usually people don't even realize that it's not the kid whose like identity in the parent's eyes is changing, but it's also the parent's identity as a parent. So it's a different kind of like parenthood. And there needs to be like an adequate time and a place for the parent to process their own identity themes. And that's what we usually do. Like if I have like parent clients with me, this is the process that we're like kind of walking hand in hand slowly, so that they get to be the parent for their child and not use the child as a therapist or a counselor or something like that, because that definitely does not help.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have to educate yourself, create safe space, and then give it time.
Yeah. And this is actually what also helps build resilience if the parents like acknowledge their own feelings, emotions, and concerns. And then get some more like information and try to be okay, like really meditate on the thought that there are a lot of uncertainties. And yes, there is discrimination and oppression and everything going on. And we can't sort of like delete that. So it takes time to be okay with that, okay, this is the situation we're in now, and how can I help my child? And so far, every single parent that I worked with hasn't had any trouble finding the love that they have for their child. So it's usually fear and anger that can sometimes like take the stage. But in the end, it's all about love. Because of course, every parent would want that. I don't want my child to be discriminated or bullied or anything. No. But okay, if you're going to want to say to your child that, no, you can't be gay, or no, you can't be transgender or anything, you can't correct your gender or whatever, you're going to be your child's first bully. And nobody wants that.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the work that you do then is therapy. So you provide therapy to families.
I don't. That is what I did back home in Finland, where I had like working in healthcare. So what I do in the US is work as a coach, but I of course like still have my clinical background that I turn to quite often. And so I work with like one-on-one coaching with parents.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What does a typical day look like for you was the question.
Yeah, I don't think I have a typical day yet, because my work permit is like 6 months old or something. And I'm really, at the moment, like I'm really like creating my network in the US, because I do have a Finnish network and a network in Europe. But at the moment in California, I'm like creating my network and in the US.
Okay. All right. Now, there's been some very public cases, for instance, that have gotten a lot of criticism. For instance, for Dwayne Wade's son. And one of the things, are you familiar with that? With Dwayne Wade's son?
I'm not, because I'm really like I've been adjusting to the US, so I haven't been following like the media that much.
You're not?
But maybe you can share something about it.
Okay. So I think, I think one of the things with that very public case is that I think the child was like 10 or something, and they were just like photographing, and she was born a boy, and she's now a girl. And so one of the criticisms was when like they're photographing her with her boyfriend and stuff like that. And one of the criticisms was, isn't that child too young to even be in a romantic like situations? What are your thoughts on that? Because there's there's the figuring out who you are and not being judged and being free to live your truth. But when it comes to adult behavior, like we were just talking about that today, I was talking about that with a group that I was working with, and so that's kind of that slippery slope a little bit. But what are your thoughts on that in terms of like not just your sexuality, but like just relationships?
So to put it in a more general level, I'm thinking about like if like a child from like, I don't know, let's say to 10 to like 12 or something, like if they're having a relationship that's like romantic, I would like really take into consideration like what is the age of the other party. Like if they're the same age or if their developmental level is the same. Because when we adults think about like, okay, they're having a romantic relationship, what it can actually be, like this is from my work in adolescent psychiatry. So it can be that, they're holding hands or they're giving kisses on the cheek. Or they can call themselves like boyfriend and girlfriend or something like that. So what we adults think about is we think about like adult relationships. And it doesn't translate into relationship that kids have with each other usually.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things was that it seemed like an intimate relationship, and so I think that was one of the problems as well. Even with like the pride parades and stuff, where the like the drag shows, like taking your 4 or 5-year-old to a drag queen show, and it's very sexual. And I mean, those are things that I believe are there's no excuse for any issues, right? That would come up, whether or not we're talking about the LGBTQIA plus community versus the heterosexual community. You know what I mean? I think there are just some rules for certain things when it comes to young children. Do you agree with that?
Well, but this is like a matter of of the certain situation. Like, what is the situation? Like, if I've back in Finland, when I see like a library is having like drag story hours, it's usually a funny lady who has a like funny hat with flowers and a cute like flower dress and everything, and there's not a lot of skin showing. There's more skin in like sports events. And it's not about like sexuality at all. It's about like playing and having fun together and making stories and fantasies. So it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And I think we hypersexualize drag a little bit because that's how it's shown in Hollywood. But being from the theater, I've seen a whole lot more variations of what it is. And I mean, it started in Greece and in Rome of women playing men, women playing, so I think it is very situational. And I think people want to put some kind of label on it, but that's taken away from the individuals and the situation. It's so because I don't want my kids to grow up judgmental. I don't want them to see color, race, sex, status as how they approach people. I want them to see another human being with talents and gifts. And if they want to share it through storytelling to kids and it's appropriate, great. Is there a line where things are inappropriate? Absolutely. But let's not generalize it across a whole.
Because that's too broad.
It's too broad.
And this is also about resilience, because I feel like if you because you talk about theater, you've mentioned it, that I think that's a really good example that, there are different kind of resources, different kind of like hobbies, places to be active and to start like exploring. Like, I feel like every single person who has this kind of like, I don't know about that LGBTQIA thing, so maybe you should look into it a bit more. Like, go to the art shows, go to galleries, go to theater. Like, be aware like what your kid is like looking online and have those discussions. Like, don't let your kid like run away alone and be alone with like maybe some kind of experiences that they actually need a parent to talk with. So that's like upbringing.
And I was referring to just a very public kind of display of revelry and just like I mean, just lots of vulgarity and stuff like that. So I also want to be careful that people aren't excusing it. Then like we just need to we just want to be ourselves and that, but that's not appropriate. Like these are 4-year-old, and if parents are taking their children to these shows as well. So I'm not talking about the funny stuff and the just being.
Yeah. So I feel like parents have a lot of like responsibility here, because if their kid says that I want to go to this place, and maybe it's a young kid, maybe they don't know what it's about. So parents need to look it up and get some information that, okay, is this appropriate for that age? Is it appropriate for my child? Am I comfortable there? Because I can't just send my kid there alone. I need to be there and have those discussions.
Yeah, and find a babysitter. Not everywhere a young child should be as well. So you have to be responsible, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So put that back in the parent's hand. I appreciate that as well, for sure.
Yeah, we don't want to generalize it. One size does not fit all. If we start turning it over to the state or local governments or federal government, that's taking out the individual in a lot of ways. And that's where the home is the foundation of society. That's where mother's raising the next generation. So we need to be there making those decisions and exploring with our child and creating a safe space for them to explore. I mean, it's just like our cell phones we give our kids. If we're not monitoring what they're doing on there, then we're just asking for it. So of course, responsibility comes back to, what did I choose for my child? Did I make sure it was appropriate or not? And that's going to vary. Every parent's different. And we may, again, come back to where we can love the person, but we may not agree with the same values or boundaries. And I do think there is a standard we'd like to think that we're all holding to a certain age group with children. And we're getting there with more appropriate teen accounts and on Instagram and some different things. We're starting to see where we need to fix some of these things generally. Yeah. And I would say other countries do it better than we do when it comes to privacy, when it comes to children and electronics. Like what we allow here is ridiculous if you do the research. So there's a lot of room for improvement for sure. But again, it comes back to, I had to educate myself as a parent to know that something different's happening in other places with food, with electronics, with what's allowed for kids. And we need to start standing up for that here where we are. And that's not going to happen if I, as a parent, don't get involved and don't do something. I can't put that on somebody else. I can't blame that on somebody else. That's on me, what I allowed for my kid. And it's the same with if they're exploring anything. Did I create the safe space? Yeah. I could be there with them and hold their hand and give my heart to where they're going and let them know I'm here. That's my role as mom, to be that safe space.
And that's what I really focus on in my coaching, like creating and strengthening that relationship with the kid or teen and with the parents, so that they have that relationship and discussion going on all the time. So that's the way that a teen will go to the parent that, hey, I saw this thing online and it made me feel uncomfortable. Like, can we talk about it or something? Or what is this?
Yeah. Or I'm really into this and you're a little shocked what you're into. Like, and then just be like, okay, what is this exactly? I have a daughter who got into expressing herself in artwork with dark artwork. It was dark in its expression, but it's an outlet for her. It totally freaked her dad out. But I went, you're finding an outlet, and maybe this is an outlet for things. And I'm glad you're finding an outlet. So instead of being apprehensive about it, I'm like, I was trying to understand why. I was trying to see like this. And then it's because I encouraged it, it's actually developed into this beautiful art form in her own style that she has, because I wasn't abrasive or shocked about, oh, that is not okay. That's not okay. This means this. I didn't put any meaning on it. I let her tell me what the meaning was.
Yeah. So really you were staying really open and authentic and in the present and listening again.
And over again with the teenager, especially, I'm finding that's the best thing. And even sometimes just being in the room and quiet and just letting them know I'm there, whether they talk to me or not, I was there. And so I think those are some other things to keep in mind when a child's exploring anything and something that's unfamiliar to you. Just don't judge it. Don't label it. Wait. Let them tell you what it means to them.
Absolutely.
You. So thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to work with you?
So especially at the moment on Instagram, which is coach_Maarit_G. But I'm sure you'll put the links under the
Yes, we will as
episode.
well. But we do have listeners, so I'm glad you're saying that for the audio version as well. Well, thank you so much for being here. Anyone, any last thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, maybe I want to emphasize the point of like there's like LGBTQIA specific resilience. So what you mentioned is like art. Community is usually super important, like being the part of the like LGBTQIA community, and maybe even like activism. So really trying, like in this political climate, really choosing your values and then sticking up for them. And if you want a better world for your child, you really need to take those steps and try to be comfortable with that, or take them while you're feeling uncomfortable at the same time. That's a possibility.
So well said.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for doing what you do. Like, thank you for being there for those families, for the children, because it's very necessary, you know, to have an outlet, to have somebody to support you, and to feel safe. So we really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the wonderful discussion and for your fantastic podcast.
Oh, thank you. Well, audience, I hope you enjoyed this and you walked away with something that you can apply to you and your family, and maybe just in the way you approach things moving forward when you think about other people and the way you want your children to grow, who they become and how they look at people as well. And it would be wonderful if we can continue inclusion, as I want that to be this in this podcast, every kind of mother, every kind of perspective, anything that's going to help us strengthen our society, create resilient mothers, and create the next resilient generation. Thank you for joining us today. Please don't forget to subscribe so we can share this message. We are a worldwide podcast with guests all around the world, and we want to continue to grow this community. You can find us on socials. You could also be a guest. Look for that link below if you'd be interested in being a guest on the podcast. If you know a sponsor or would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to me or Catherine as well.
Sure. We want you all on this journey. We want to hear your stories. We want to share your stories. We want to gain strength from each other, because together we're stronger. And to never forget the blessing of being a mother and what we're creating. We're creating the future every single day of our lives. So get on this train with us and let's do this thing, moms.
I believe in you. Believe in yourself. God bless. And we'll see you around. Take care.